Well, you know, back in the 1800s, Benjamin Day, who started the penny press, did, and I believe it was somebody else, they actually produced a hoax that there were people on the moon. Do you know about this? It was a huge hoax in the papers for I think at least a year or so. People would, you know, trying to look up and see that there were people living on the moon. So that actually happened in this country.
Or that photograph, you know, of Armstrong putting an American flag. Have you seen this photograph? No. Neil Armstrong, who was the first man on the moon, right? I mean, at least in Russian media and Russian books, you could see the photograph of Neil Armstrong putting the American flag on the moon, and people were like, "Don't feed me this," because the flag was kind of like, you know, wind blown, and like you could tell this is not happening on the moon because there's no wind.
Well, now we're getting into
we're getting
people said we didn't believe that we landed on the moon. We'd better not go there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we don't believe that.
Yeah.
It's just the photograph was questionable with American flag and everything. I mean, we didn't have any problem believing there was an American on the moon, like fine. But at the same time, you know, those photographs are like, you don't have to do that. But anyway.
First on the moon is 2003. So
5.
Yeah, 5.
2005. Was this shown here? Did it get distribution?
You mean before?
Yeah,
I
did
don't
it
think
get
it's been
distribution in the
shown.
States?
I
So
don't
you're
think so.
really seeing it for the first time
Yeah.
here. Some of these are available on Netflix, but people don't want to see them on Netflix because you're going to see the big screen.
Big screen.
And you're going to be speaking before the
Yeah.
movies as well. Yeah. Can you just talk a little bit more about, let's look at The Return, because a number of people saw The Return. That got distribution, and that is just a beautiful film. Well, you say it was life-altering.
Oh, it was.
for
It was
you.
life-changing.
Yeah,
You
so
know.
maybe a little bit about that one, bringing us up to date now, because that's the most, I believe that's the most recent film. Well, actually, that's 2003, but
Yeah.
fairly recent.
But it made a very sound appearance in Russia as well. And Russian audience is, well, not the younger generation, but the older generation is pretty picky about the movies, about the films, rather. And as I mentioned, Russian audience needs to have this some base, some foundation for the thought. The film has to have, a film for that matter, has to have something provocative, something that provokes you to think.
Something you can chew on.
Yeah,
We don't,
exactly.
unlike
Meat.
here
Give
where
me
we
the
don't want to
meat.
just, Spider-Man is going from building to building, he gets the girl and he
Absolutely.
wins off the
Absolutely.
villain. Not enough for Russian.
Yeah, it has to be something like, you know, you question about, I don't know, human existence and like why we're here, or moral standards, you know, all this that makes actually your head ache, but in a good way. You know, it's kind of like when you work out, your muscles hurt, that kind of thing, but with your brain.
Well, there's an anti-intellectual bent to American culture,
Oh.
and we know that.
There
And I
is.
think we're willing to acknowledge that. We're sorry, but when you see something like The Return, you're waiting. When you come out, what's unfolded for you, you just keep thinking about for hours afterwards because it takes so long to get there.
And it's so, what I found interesting about The Return is from a certain standpoint, you can see there's a great deal of symbolic aspects in the film that you can either acknowledge and it makes it a deep, beautiful film, or you cannot acknowledge it and it's still a deep, beautiful film. I mean, it was filmed in 2001, it was released in 2003. In 2001, you know, with 1989 being the fall of the Soviet Union, that's 12 years, and the father of these two boys, which is in the plot, comes back after 12 years. So there's this symbolic idea that you can see the father as the return of this Soviet desire and Soviet need, and yet hard fist that rules them, and the children of the newer generation who, you know, both love and hate, you know, that being in their lives.
Yeah, and I would say with the shifts that are going on in American culture now, as I've said about some other foreign films that are playing here, forget that there are subtitles. Don't even have the discussion. you know, people are afraid in America of subtitles. I really don't understand that. It takes 1 second to go back, and we need to reflect off other cultures to understand who we are, especially with the huge shifts that are going on now in this country. So, And the opportunity they have to hear you talk about them. You'll be having discussions following the films, or you just
I
introducing
don't
them?
think there is anything following the film, but I think
There's
we could
nothing-
totally- well, it's actually a good idea to
Yeah,
introduce
yeah.
because such films as The Return, I think they need something, you know, a follow up, some feedback, because I'm pretty sure that people who watch this film, they will have questions, you know, and like we are more than willing to
Okay.
answer them or help discuss it, or maybe there will be some new point, you know, that somebody raises up from watching this movie.
So we'll advocate for a discussion afterwards. Following.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And they're happening on Sundays.
Yes,
On
correct.
Sundays, so
Once a month.
once
on
a month.
Sunday,
Okay, great. Through the fall.
And I
think
believe,
through
The Return is
November?
November.
November.
Yeah, November at 1 p.m.
Great. Can't wait. These
Yeah.
are really, really wonderful films. I'm always amazed
Yeah.
when I see a great Russian film, like you say, thoughtful and just beautiful to look at. So,
Absolutely.
thanks.
No problem.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming down. So get out there on Sunday and see these films, and we'll see you at the Coolidge.